Tonight on episode 180. I don't know why I always say tonight when we clearly do not record in the evening, but here we
I'm
are.
that exhausted that it's tonight, so that helps.
That is very true. Well, you do have a small child, Sean, and that is exhausting in and of itself, let alone even considering your watch and listen list, which is making me tired just thinking about. But how are you doing over there, Baby Reindeer?
Oh god! You
Yeah.
said you were gonna make me feel uncomfortable. That's just like I'm imagining the typeface showing up.
Yeah, and trying to read it real quick and process
It's
through
tough.
what was
Well, also
misspelled.
her like
And
crazy like psycho typos, which made it even more unsettling.
we'll talk more about it right on the other side of this. Sent from iPhone. Welcome to the Smash Cutz podcast. This is episode 181. Sean, it has been a few weeks, buddy.
How you doing? Yeah, I know we there's some sicknesses and the typical structure. I noticed you're having yourself a coffee there,
Yeah, this is my second cup. I actually I've been up since like 6:30 because that's just my internal schedule. Like I wake up around 6 or 6:30 for work, depending. And on the weekends, obviously, like I just can't adjust it. So I woke up, I'm like, oh, good to go. I was doing a little bit of work, just catching up on weekend emails, had a cup of coffee, fell asleep on the couch.
Yeah. The nap after a cup of coffee is the best. I'm seething with jealousy now because our coffee machine is right now at the repair shop, which I didn't know was a thing that coffee shops could go to. But
Wait, what? What kind of repair shop?
I don't know, a coffee machine repair shop. She sent away. My wife / house manager sent away for the coffee shop to go there. The thing was busted for a while and I didn't care. I was just like, feel like I was like just like, oh, the coffee tastes watery and there's a puddle next to the machine. That's fine with me. Sam's the one that's like, hey, maybe we should take care of this. And I'm like, oh yeah, good idea.
Is this a regular coffee pot or a Keurig?
This is like it's like a Nescafe Keurig kind of thing. Yeah, it's
like
really good.
Thing.
Yeah, it's like it's got the Nest cups now. It's a great coffee machine, but it's been there for a while. We thought like, oh, we can handle being without coffee for it's been horrible.
I feel like that always happens with machines that are that like complicated is the wrong word, but have multiple types of coffee issuance. Like when they have like a regular pot on the side, there's the other ones that you can have the Keurig as well, like Keurig, like the individual one serves, regardless of the company. But I feel like they are the ones that always break down easily. My parents went through so many Keurigs over the years, and my Keurig of like 13 years, I'm talking about it like it's a pet, just went down this year. And it was like, oh, the swan song. So I don't know how I survived with one so long, but new one has been acquired.
It's like they haven't gotten into the whole planned obsolescence craze. They're just like, well, you can have one forever, but
absolutely. Well, listen, this isn't a podcast about coffee and repair shops. This is a podcast about movies mainly, but we'd be remiss not to talk about the Diet Coke centric documentary-ish movie or show itself, Baby Reindeer. This is a wild Netflix series that popped up out of nowhere because Netflix I feel like they never know what's going to be a hit, what's not going to be.
They absolutely do not, because this did not get any sort of play.
No. And then even when like it first came out and people were talking about it, I was like, what the hell is Baby Reindeer? What? And I watched the preview and I'm like, okay, I'm kind of interested in this. And I watched it all in 2 days because it was just absolutely wild. And we have to talk about this, Sean, a little bit. The tagline is, when a struggling comedian shows one act of kindness to a vulnerable woman, it sparks a suffocating obsession which threatens to wreck both their lives. So at the core of it, it is about this interplay between an alleged stalker and a struggling comedian. But boy, does it touch on so much more. There are left turns. There are sexual assault conversations. There are identity conversations. There is just so much here. Sean, what were your reactions to this?
Well, my reactions are that like I watch so much like TV and movies and everything that I saw this like thumbnail there. Like Netflix at least put it at the front of the thumbnails, and I just didn't I decided not to watch it because I was like, I don't know any of the people involved in this. And then finally it was recommendation after recommendation. So word of mouth kind of saved this. And I'm like, the lesson is like, if something looks interesting, go for it regardless of like who's in it.
Mhm.
Like, you know, and not everything is Apple TV Plus money and has 8 celebrities in it. So I mean, I'm just so thoroughly impressed by this. Like you said, you watched it in 2 nights. I think I only watched it in 2 nights because you know you can't just like stop this one. Like
Yeah.
if you're sitting there, you're going to the next episode with the twists and the turns. Yeah, I mean, like we've seen stalkers, we've seen women stalkers in like certain media and movies. We've never seen it with this level of empathy, and you know I use that cautiously because you know she's obviously quite in the wrong of that character, but they give her all 360 degrees. They really give her a depth and like, why are you doing this? What is wrong with you personally to be doing this? And then what is wrong with the victim? And it doesn't victim blame, of course, but it does get like into the psyche of a victim of stalking. And so I think this like just was so I want to hear the think pieces for people that are smarter than me and more well versed in these issues, and I want to see how well this plays with it. But from what I saw, this was very responsible, and you know it's deeply reflective. Like you said, it's like almost like documentarian because it's his biography. It's based on his one man show, which must be the wildest one man show of all time. And but I like it's based on his own personal experiences, so much so that the creator has literally said, please stop trying to find out who things are. You guys are wrong and you're fucking people's lives up. Please stop doing investigations online for this. And it's just nuts. It really is.
The vulnerability of it, I think, is what was most impressive to me. I mean, like I mentioned, there are conversations around sexual assault. There are conversations around trans issues, around self-identity, and identifying as male or female. I mean, I'm sorry, identifying as gay or straight, or bi or whatever on the spectrum. There also is, coming out to family and that dynamic. There's so much at play here. And then at the surface level, there's just trying to make it in your career, trying to follow your passions, moving to a new area, all that. The one thing that really struck me about this that I really enjoy, I'm going to toe this line carefully because I don't know that I always communicate it the best. We've seen stories of the damage that a relationship can do to usually a woman is how it's depicted, and we see the tortured psyches and the blaming of the one individual all the time, who typically is depicted as a man, and it's usually a straight relationship. We don't often see the man in that relationship as the victim. We don't see it when they're the ones being stalked. We never see that really tackled. We don't see it when there's identity at play. We don't see it when there are same sex situations that this happens with. So to see it kind of flipped on its head a little bit, I think changes the conversation a little bit to where people, or at least adds another layer to it, would be a better way to say it, where yes, the majority of victims are going to be women. That's just the nature of how history has played out with these situations. But there are men that struggle. There are other populations, other identities that also are going through this, and this shines a light on that a little bit and shows that psyche, while also looking at the motivations of the stalker. Not only the motivations, but what's going on mentally. Is there something else there? And the one actress here, and I'm going to forget her name, I'm trying to bring it up.
I've got them called up. Is it
Go
Jessica Gunning who plays
Yes.
Martha? Yeah.
No. Well, she's absolutely fantastic. Don't get me wrong. And she, like, I can't wait to see her in so much more. But Nava Mal, who plays Terry.
Oh, yes.
And she's the one that's constantly reminding him that there's something mentally wrong with her. And there's she's challenged. There's an issue there. She's going through something. And I really appreciated that look into it. I thought that was really kind of fascinating and allowed us to have empathy, as you mentioned, for the other character to an extent. Like she's clearly doing wrong,
but there's something there. Yeah.
Yes. But what I guess my whole point is, like, there's all these cases, and I've oddly focused on this kind of like in my work and stuff, where yes, there are the support structures and systems that are out there are so important, and there are other support systems that also can be needed. Maybe not to the same level. Maybe it's not as frequent for, a man to be in this situation, or a trans woman or a trans man or whatever. But there are services that everybody needs, and we need to be able to focus on supplying them and providing them. And I think this shines some light onto that too. That while it's maybe not as frequent, there are devastating situations such as a relationship like this, where there is an individual that we don't always think of as a victim at the center of it. So I really like that, because it kind of flipped it on its head and I think makes the audience really think deeper about the dynamics here and break out of that binary of what we're so used to, and look at like just the factors at play, the people at play, the emotions at play. And that's what made this really kind of, I said, vulnerable earlier, but also very impactful.
Yeah, I mean, like I've been rolling my brain thinking about the other ones where the male is the quote unquote victim of a female stalker in movies, and I can only think of Fatal Attraction and Swim Fan. Both
Mhm.
pretty cool movies, but also both like very like, hey, the guy's a cool guy that screws up and cheats on his wife and girlfriend. That's okay though, because she is psycho. And it's like,
Right.
well, okay. I mean, listen, they're entertaining, but they don't have the responsibility that this has. And not that you always need to have that message, but I think this was very important to have that, especially with and I want to also shout out his name, Richard Gadd, who is like, the narration in this is so reflective and so refreshing to have. Like he's almost using a
And
different tone of voice, and it's
and
just
so well written, Sean. Like, it
so well
was
written.
like
So
poetic
well
in
written.
some ways. I was
It
like, "Ooh."
really is. Well, because what is it, like 3 episodes in, and then the fourth episode is the flashback episode, and so many series do that, like where they have the character. But I think this one, it was necessary to like present this situation, then go deeper into his character, and like we
Absolutely.
won't give too much away, but there's obviously sexual assault involved, and so you start to like get so much there. I will just caution anyone who's listening to this who hasn't seen it yet. I recommend seeing it. It's one of my favorite series of the year. It is a very, very hard watch, and you will be left
Absolutely.
with a lot of anxiety. So take care of yourself. I was very anxious throughout this, and it's just really difficult.
It just made me think a lot, because there's obviously, like, this is an entertainment. It's a form of entertainment. It's 7 episodes. It's diving into the most controversial pieces of someone's life. But it's just the multifaceted approach to life that we all have to take, where we're juggling so many different issues, and looking at like what he's juggling, and clearly there's a lot there, thinking about what Martha's juggling, thinking about just all the different challenges in life, and like the support that he needed but wasn't able to get for one way or another, for one reason or another. It makes me just think about how many victims, regardless of who they are not getting what they need, and how this could have been uh cut off somewhere earlier, instead of going on for as long as it did, which is a couple of years. But
Yeah.
oh,
Oh, there's
just
so
what a
many
wild
moments where I
series.
was like, like where he has that empathy, and I'm like, dude, just stay away. Don't feel bad for her. And he didn't. And, it's impressive of a character on his part, but also what would have happened if he did just completely stay away at that moment? Would it
Yeah.
have completely ended? So I have the interesting question for you, because I'm going to be thinking about the Emmys. I'm going to be doing my Emmy predictions in a couple of weeks. And this is a limited series.
Hmm.
And so it's not going to be in this category at all. People are calling this a dark comedy. I can't see this structured as a comedy at all. I consider this a drama. Now there's the half-hour element where the episodes are a half hour long. There's the element that he is a comedian, and sometimes dramas about comedians get meshed into comedy. Once again, this won't matter. I mean, we're talking about like my most recent article is going to be about next week's article is going to be about The Bear and the controversy of it being a comedy or not. And I think that one's willing to discuss it. I think Baby Reindeer, even though it's going to be in limited series anyway, so for Emmys it doesn't matter. Do you consider any element of this a comedy, or is this like just straight drama for you?
I think it's straight drama. There's
Yeah.
nothing really comedic except for the moments where he's showing himself attempting comedy on stage and such. And at the core, he's a comedian, and that's kind of what drove him to even go to London and start his life, start his life there. But I no, this is
Yeah.
very much a drama for me in every turn.
Good, because
It
like I
is,
mean, like there's people that are saying like this is very similar to Hacks, where Hacks is a drama about comedians. I'm like, no, Hacks has legit punchlines and like the
yeah.
comedic tone. This is just like intense drama.
Well, and the punchlines here are not funny. Though
No.
every punchline that's delivered is devastating in some way. Like maybe you're led with a little bit of like his comedic view on like what he could have done or what he should do, but then the reality hits you and there's nothing funny about it at all. So maybe that's where the dark comedy aspect
Yeah.
comes in, but I still don't think it hits that. Also, this isn't just a 30-minute like each episode is around 30 minutes, but you have one like episode 4 is 45 minutes.
Yeah, they go wild
Episode
card
3
on it,
is
which
40.
I love that people do that because
I
I
do too.
can't stand this thing where it's like half hours comedy, 1 hour's drama. It's like, okay, so what do you do with the bear that has fishes in it? And so that has the hour episode. And I don't know. My article, I'm gonna like behind the scenes look. I'm gonna have you read it and see if I am just talking in circles, which I think I am. But no, I mean, like I think this has like the ultimate punchline at the very end with an amazing final sign off that like brings everything around and has like
Oh my
that is
God.
like almost a perfectly told joke. And like it's like it doesn't have you laugh, but your jaw is on the floor the moment that occurs.
1000%. I was like, whoa.
That was like it took me a minute. I was like, oh, okay. Oh my God. Like it took me a
Which
moment.
is why I think the writing in this is
Supreme.
the highlight for me. It's incredible. The writing of this was wild. Oh. All right, let's switch gears to a movie that maybe didn't have quite as strong writing. Sean, I don't know if you remember me, but we met at Coachella.
Do you remember when Coachella just immediately cuts to a 40th birthday? That bothered me more than anything ever. Sorry, let's introduce the film.
Did you notice that there was no security around anyone?
Dude, she walked into the trailer of a boy band.
Just walks into the trailer to use the bathroom. We're talking about The Idea of You with Anne Hathaway and Nicholas Galitzine. It's the adaptation of a popular romance novel, hit Amazon Prime. Look, I saw this a few weeks ago, and this was actually like one of the ones I was looking forward to at Philadelphia Film Society's Spring Fest. This was like an afternoon screening, and I remember like I told you this last night. I like halfway through, I was vibing with it a little bit. I think they have great chemistry.
Mm-hmm.
I love Nicholas Galitzine in this. I love Anne Hathaway in this. There's something really charming there. I also love, oh my God, I'm forgetting her name right off the bat. The friend. Help.
I'm
help.
looking. I'm looking.
Help me.
I usually
help
type
me.
these up quicker.
Why don't I remember her name? Annie Mumolo.
Oh yeah, she's great.
I love her, and she's not in it much, but she's just really hilarious. The innards are there. the structure is there. The foundation is there for a good movie, but halfway through you realize that it's really the same old shit over and over again. I love the music in this. I think that the soundtrack's actually really solid. So the music that was written for the fictional band in this, and Nicholas Galitzine performing with his very dark temporary tattoos were fine. I enjoyed them. I made this reference to you last night on this comparison. There is a movie from 2005 that I absolutely love with Uma Thurman, Brian Greenberg, Meryl Streep. It is called Prime. Meryl Streep is an older woman who falls for a younger man. Spoiler alert, the younger man's mother is Meryl Streep, who is Uma Thurman's therapist. This is, to me, a similar premise in that it's kind of like the daughter loves this band, kind of falls out by the time they go to the concert and stuff, like, are we supposed to love
Backstreet Boys like nostalgia, like
the nostalgia for it, right? Like it's hers. The band,
Yeah.
the loving of the band is hers. So to me, she is like Meryl Streep's character in this. It's just a different version of it. And she is Anne Hathaway falls in love with Nicholas Galitzine's character Hayes. And it's all about like the shouldn't they? What about the age factor? What about the factor that he's famous? What does all that look like? What will people say? You also have Reed Scott once again in a supporting role. That's all he does is these weird supporting roles, which drives me
just
crazy.
like let's get the douchey ex-husband. Like, is Reed Scott on the line?
He's very good at it. He's very good at it. So ultimately, like I thought it was a fine movie. I'm wondering mostly, Sean, while I do want to hear your thoughts, I want to hear Sam's thoughts.
I'll say both of us had like a fun little double feature of this, and we won't talk about it today, but Unfrosted on Netflix. And we watched this first, and this was straight up crickets. Both of us were very bored. Like, we didn't really like have any comments. And then Unfrosted, both of us are just like cackling on the couch, rolling back and forth, laughing. Now, it's difficult for me to say which is a better movie. I think both of them have the same sluggishness in their narrative and characters. I was bored by this, unfortunately, and I went into this with an open mind. I really do. I know like rom-coms are not exactly the like cinephile bread and butter, but I was like excited for this. I love Nicholas Galitzine, especially like, now he's in Mary and George, which is just a bonkers show on Stars. And I just love like his versatility is great. I love Anne Hathaway. I think she's unbelievable. And I think she's great in this. Like she really captures a certain emotion. But if she has to play one more time, like, a quote unquote ugly character, she does this too many times. Princess Diaries, Devil Wears Prada, this where it's just like, like, oh boy, she's so like just like ugly and frumpy. No, she's not. And this is bordering on like a little bit of misogynism, but she's beautiful. She's turning 40, but she's freaking beautiful. Like what are we doing with oh boy, oh boy, she's trying on the bathing suit and she doesn't look good in it. And like I got like kind of mad at that stuff. Just like, and she always does that where like, Devil Wears Prada, she wears glasses and a sweater. Like what are we gonna do with this? But I think
she also was wearing the Madame Web wig.
Oh jeez. Oh, yeah. They definitely got it from the same set.
Wig watch.
Wig watch. I started off like really pushing for this. I was like, okay, I like it. And then I just like really just started to fail for me. And I'm disappointed just in general. I think it's just really dumb. And the stars do save they have the charm for this and they're holding up the entire movie, but even they have trouble holding it up.
Some of the beats, and I know this is based on a book. Sometimes books are, they deliver this stuff better. Evan Ross Katz, who I don't know if you follow him or you've seen him online, really just funny presence online. He posted a lot of like pieces of this film, like quotes from the movie. And some of them are just so silly. Like one was the Coachella one. This one is, she is my daughter and I am her mother. What? Yeah. And then like, you're the mother of my child and you're screwing this kid that she's had a poster of next to her bed since she was 10. She never had a poster of Hayes in her bedroom. It was Rory. It was always Rory.
That was like where I was like, I'm siding with the douchey ex-husband here. Right. It was like, and yeah, that was the other part of it where it's just like, I don't know, man. 5 years later, he's still going to be sought after. And now he's going solo with his career. He probably still has paparazzi going. They're like, I get it. It's a movie. I'm thinking too much into this, but there's some levels that bothered me. And I don't think it's the sexism thing where it's like, oh, well, because she's older. It's like, no, it's because he's a superstar and you're putting your whole family through that. And yes, sure, there's like an unkindly look at that because humanity in general is awful and like we will look at it that way and look at it in a misogynistic lens. But the problems were a little bit deeper than that, and they didn't really decide to go through that.
Yeah, I'm with you there. It's a silly written rom-com in my opinion. Sillily written. We'll go that way. Sillily. That's what frustrates me, and I have that question for you, Sean, is what is going on with rom-coms here? We have seen some success with them, like anyone but you. Even like I'm trying to think of other ones, like what was the one on Netflix with Ali Wong that
was a great one. Always Be My Maybe.
Always Be My Maybe. Like that was a good one. No Hard Feelings even did well. But when you think about how some of these are written, they're written with such, to me, a low respect for the characters that are involved in them right now. You look at even like The Lost City, like how dumb that was. You look at Irish Wish that went on Netflix a couple weeks ago with Lindsay Lohan. Some of this stuff is just so cheesy. Ghosted even, like how dumb was that? And I'm just frustrated because then you turn around and you have something like Palm Springs 2 years ago that was such like an inventive way to approach a rom-com. And I'm just getting tired of like feeling so stupid watching these movies. And like you just said a few minutes ago, yes, maybe we're analyzing it too much, but hello, that's what we do. Like we watch movies for the strength of them, the strength of the writing, the strength of the acting. And if we have to continue to lower the bar for rom-coms because there are rom-com, what are we doing here?
Well, I think the problem is like, a lot of those films you listed were streaming films and you don't really have to try with streaming. And sometimes when you don't try, you get enough good creators in there enough good writers that you get something good and like you get something that's enjoyable and like that is genuinely good. But, Irish Wish hit top of Netflix. Idea of You hit top of top of the Prime charts for streaming. And who knows what that means for the sake of money, but you don't really need to like really try that hard because people are just going to be sitting on their couch on a Saturday and they're going to watch that. And then I look at something like, and this is a decent transition into The Fall Guy, where obviously that's a film that's designed to be in theaters. Like, I'm happy it's in theaters. I wish it would do better. But it is also, what I liked about that one was the action movie portion was fun. The actual plot was violently thin and like just so damn thin. And so like it because it was fun enough, it worked in the theaters. And this one just wasn't really that fun for me. So I could abide by a cruddy rom-com if there is either funny parts or fun moments. And this one just didn't really have that. Like, and so like something like The Fall Guy, it's like, I am enjoying myself this entire time. So I'm going to give it the credit it deserves, even though like the actual writing isn't great.
Right. Well, let's just for full disclosure, I had not seen The Fall Guy, but we did want to talk about it just a little bit. You saw it. How was the pairing of Ryan Gosling and Emily Blunt?
Better on the marketing trail than in the movie.
Really interesting.
Like, I mean, their reviews, like, I think their natural chemistry is so much better than whatever was written on the page there. And I still loved the two of them and loved watching the two of them. And it was just like old school Hollywood, which is just, we want to harken back to this. And, we talk about how, yes, technically this is an original property, but like, I didn't know there was a series until like way after, until the two stars show up in the post-credit scene and the theater erupted, and I was like, what's going on? And so I had to do some research on that.
What is this?
like it was like when they were acting like when the actual Starsky and Hutch showed up, and they were just like, oh my god, and I was like, no, what, who are these people? But
what is happening here?
But so I'm disappointed by it not doing well. Unfortunately, the cynical brain in me says like audiences want to see original things. I'm like, no, they don't. They show with their wallets that they don't. Like they don't. Like unfortunately, I want to see original stuff. You want to see original stuff. And you stop one person on the street, they want to see original stuff. But they're not going to go out to the theater for original stuff. They're going to go out to the theater to see Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes or, whatever Marvel movie. Well, those are slowly dying, but still, like, I think Deadpool Wolverine's going to do exceptionally well. I think Despicable Me 4 is going to do exceptionally well because those are ones that they know about.
Why do you think so? Let's dive into that a little bit more, because the consensus coming into the weekend was that I think the low bar for the movie was $30 million at the box office. The high was around 50. It is underperforming at 28-ish as of last night when I saw the projections. A lot of discourse on film Twitter and the interwebs is a lot of people are like, see, you want original movies, and this, now you're not going to see them, so don't complain when you don't get original movies. Number one, it's not original, but I get it because a lot of people didn't know that. But the other piece of it is, and this is where I stand with this, is I have never been, from the very beginning when we first saw the advertisement for this, I was not intrigued by the premise. I didn't give a shit. And so it's not one that I'm going to run out to. And spoiler alert, like I get to go to a screening of it, so like even then, like it was not one that I wanted to run to.
Oh, actually, I want to defend that point for a moment because
go for it.
Because I remember when the trailer came out, it looked terrible, and I said, "This premise looks awful." For what this premise is, it doesn't hang on that very particular premise a lot. And it does its own thing in the action movie way, which obviously people won't know until they see it. So most people,
I was going to say, which is great to be able to Monday morning quarterback, but like for trying to get people out to the theaters, if they're feeling like it's going to be one thing and the marketing is telling you it's going to be one thing, then they're not going to go see it if they don't want to see that one thing.
Yeah, no, and that's exactly true. I just realized I talked myself into a corner with that. I was pleasantly surprised by the fact that like I was like, this is going to be the typical thing where it's like a ne'er-do-well that becomes a good stuntman and like become like I saw the moments like when the trailer was out how this movie was going to go. It's not that it's surprising at all. It's actually probably pretty irritatingly predictable. But it was like it just went in a different way for the delivery of this type of premise that I was actually like somewhat refreshed by. And but like you just said, like people don't know that. People are seeing that first trailer, which since the first trailer, I think that since then this movie has done a stellar job with its marketing. I don't know if it's because it's coming off as thirsty, but you know, Ryan Gosling doing amazing on SNL with Emily Blunt showing up. Then like the two of them like doing great, like having great chemistry in all of their interviews, and then like all of the hilarious stunts on the red carpet, which I thought were like, oh, like there's a fun viral campaign cooking here. I guess it just didn't reach enough people, or like yeah, it's just one of these things where people are just like, oh, the new Planet of the Apes movie without even knowing the title of it versus the Fall Guy. What is that? And
Yeah.
I think, unfortunately, that's just such a tough hill to climb. And sometimes it works, and most of the time it unfortunately doesn't.
But even if, like, for me, maybe, and let's take myself out of it. If my father or, a friend of mine saw the original ad for the Fall Guy and then continues to see all the viral marketing, all of the exposure that Ryan Gosling is getting, whether that's through the Oscars doing Ken or, in the interviews that they're doing together, meaning him and Emily Blunt, or hosting SNL and doing a great job, that's not going to change me wanting to see the movie.
Yeah.
I'm still predicting that I'm not going to like the movie, so I'm probably not going to go. It's not a high priority. And I think that's what kind of bothers me about the conversation is like, maybe it just isn't a movie that people, what is it doing on Rotten Tomatoes? I don't even know.
It's like in the 80s.
Is it really?
It's quite
for the audience?
Like, yeah. Oh, audience, I don't know. But
audience is 87, but still, like, that's, to me, that's also kind of not weak, but like it's not in the 90s for audience.
It is, yeah. Like usually, like for the audience, it's easy to get into the 90s for an audience score.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things where I think the two of us are also rather cynical, and we see the strings.
Correct.
We see a viral campaign, and we're like, oh, bullshit. Like we know this stuff. Like we know like everything about that. So I thought that would reach regular people, the actual like money makers that like
the normies,
that actually go to theaters at certain times. And it's so tricky because I think that these days you have to be like such a so staunchly four quadrant where like this one was not for kids. Not that there's anything inappropriate, but just kids wouldn't be interested. And I think that kills something. I do think that takes something away, and that's bonkers to say because every movie can't be a kids movie, but like those are the ones that like parents are going to the theater to see, and so it's so tricky.
Well, and it's crazy too that it's starting off so slow when I think the budget was 130 before marketing. Yeah, 130, which is crahere So
yeah, I mean, like, and then you look at something like Anybody But You, or Anyone But You, where
what about me?
Where like that got $200 million in theaters, and then I remember why. It's because it was in theaters for 5 months. Like they just like kept, like they were like Valentine's Day screening, and it's like this movie came out in December, but I think they just kept on playing it, and I guess people just kept on going. Like,
well, and I don't think there was a ton of competition. Like there was stuff that came out, but it was little stuff that wasn't really hitting hard. Like think about, we talked about this before, but the Iron Claw came out right at a weird time, and that's not necessarily the one that's going to get like the most butts in the seats. But I think it just played that well, and it had good word of mouth. Maybe the Fall Guy will do the same. Who knows?
I think Fall Guy will have a decent amount of word of mouth because I think that general audiences are coming out of this happy, and so they'll say like, "Oh, that was pretty fun." And if people aren't interested in an Apes movie or a horror prequel in the next 2 weeks, that could be what overshadows them.
Well, and that's the biggest problem for it, though, is that you have Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes coming out next week, and that's a major blockbuster. And that is, I think, what is going to really hurt this movie is, if you have the choice to see one movie, what are you going to see? And it's most likely going to be Planet of the Apes, which is currently tracking for 50 to 60 million, which I think is kind of low. But who knows?
I think, yeah, it's going to be a tricky one because I think there was like this bad will for it for like being like the fourth of a trilogy, and then people just stopped caring because they're like, oh my god, the apes are riding horses. Like, it looks dope. Like, I'm a sucker for a Planet of the Apes movie, man.
I know,
I'm such a loser. Like,
I can't wait. I can't wait. I'm sorry. My screening is tomorrow night, and I can't wait.
Oh, you're so lucky.
Tomorrow night being, we're recording this on Sunday.
Oh, yes.
All right, Sean. Let's switch gears here. Let's get into some hard-hitting analysis. What is happening in the film industry is that we are seeing a lot of reboots, a lot of remakes, a lot of rebakes, as I like to combine them and call them. I just made that up on the spot. But it was just announced this week that the Maze Runner series is getting a reboot. The last film released in 2018, 6 years ago. Percy Jackson and the Olympians was rebooted this year on Disney+. The last movie released in 2010, 14-year span. Chronicles of Narnia is getting a reboot on Netflix. Last movie, also 2010. Spider-Man had 3 reboots in 20 years. The last Scooby-Doo movie was in 2004. Now Netflix is doing a live action series, so there's a 20-year span there. My question for you is, how soon is too soon for a reboot?
I mulled over this one when I looked at this outline today, and it's tough because like obviously like reboots most of the time just don't work, and they're like having them this close to each other, like they're still like fresh in people's heads. I will say with some of these, Maze Runner, Percy Jackson, and Chronicles of Narnia are all franchises that either like lost attention or lost funding and just didn't complete their movies. I mean, like Chronicles of Narnia, like just like after Voyage of the Dawn Treader, which doesn't exist basically,
Which I
like,
didn't think actually came out. When I was looking it up, I
yeah,
was like, oh my God, that actually did come out. I
barely
forgot.
came out. It was like in a different studio, and like I mean, no one saw it. So like with all of these, they either phased out attention wise, they weren't loved by like the fans, and Scooter agrees.
Yeah,
And they
Scooter does
weren't,
not love them either.
and so they one moment.
Scooter has some opinions here.
Exactly. So like between like the Narnias and you know all those, they were like they have been kind of forgotten. And so like, you know, it's almost like hey, let's get in a second pass, because I'll say this, I didn't watch the new Percy Jackson series, but it was quite beloved by both critics and fans.
Absolutely.
While the movie was hated by both, and like people are like, it screwed up the copyright, it screwed up like you know, and then the critics were like, yeah, it was pretty terrible also. And so like this one was loved by both, and so you know that's a successful reboot as much as we like want to say it. The Spider-Man thing is like its own crazy world where like Sony needed to like keep the property, so they literally just regurgitated a movie out there with respect to the Garfield movies. I know they've become beloved, but those were made to keep a property like legally and not really to like actually like, you know, we want to see a different side. And then, you know, Holland came in there because they wanted to do this Marvel thing. The Spider-Man thing is crazy. Scooby-Doo, I don't know what the hell they're doing with that, because they have like that shitty Velma series with like, you know, 8 other, like there was some animated series recently that came out where Scooby-Doo was like completely articulate but also was a puppy, which I'm not going to argue the canonical of like nature of Scooby-Doo, but that just doesn't even like add up at all unless he had a horrible accident when he grew up. Like I don't even know like what like it's just like
what horrible accident.
I don't know. He fell in a glue factory or something.
He became he was Kristi Noem's hunting dog, Governor Kristi Noem's hunting dog. And she took him out.
This is bad. It's gold, so you can't cut it, but you should cut it.
I don't know where I fall on this, because you're exactly right that the ones that I listed definitely do have different factors into them. Spider-Man is kind of on an island of itself, but I even think, and like where to draw the line between a reboot and a remake is also a challenge, because you think about the Jurassic Park movies, we had the original trilogy, and then it wasn't a reboot, it was they were sequels in a sense, but they also were like requels, kind of like the Scream movies. And you know, and I'm like trying to think about that, and now we're about to get another likely new trilogy of Jurassic World movies. They're sticking with Jurassic World, but it's likely going to be a brand new cast, and it's just, this is all getting kind of crazy. And I understand that it's about mining the IP and continuing to build on what has been successful, and that's, you know, there's some sort of safety in continuing to put these films out. What's interesting with the Scooby-Doo piece is that people are still wanting Gunn to make Scooby-Doo 3. Like there is like a core of that fan base that's like, James Gunn makes Scooby-Doo 3.
Well, and that is where we can make an argument for a casting Oscar, because the casting Oscar would have gone to Scooby-Doo in 2003. Like it wouldn't have, but it should have, because that was some of the best casting you'll ever see in a movie. I mean, they just literally grabbed the people that are perfect for every single one of these roles. And so I think people are just obsessed with that, and you know, they want to bring that back. But I don't know, all of those people I think have quit acting and said like, I'm not going back to like in front of a camera ever again.
Well, and also 20 years later, it might be a very different looking Mystery Squad. Gunn, we talked about this before, but James Gunn always hits on his casting.
He does.
He
really
so
does.
Good with casting.
I mean, he does like he brings in Nathan Fillion every time, but you know, like,
The other thing that I'm realizing here, Sean, you mentioned the Chronicles of Narnia, the Maze Runner, Percy Jackson, the Olympians. I'm thinking about how they are young adult series,
Mhm.
and that may be, I think there's a larger shelf life for young adult novels. And so, as people grow up and they get into their teens, higher teens, meaning late teens, 20s, whatever, and they move past Percy Jackson, and the Olympians, like they move past the Maze Runner, they move past Chronicles of Narnia. Now you can reintroduce it to a new swatch of young adults who may be interested in this and may know the books, because a lot of these books are so beloved. Wait for the Hunger Games reboot, that's coming. Kind of semi got it with the prequel, but not really. I feel like they have a little bit more shelf life. But also, then I could argue Scooby-Doo the same way. So this is a very undeveloped logic here. But
Well,
Scooby-Doo has been beloved forever. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Look what's happening with that. We have the animated one that came out of the shadows, from Seth Rogen, who knew. We have a Transformers 1 movie coming out. We have another Transformers movie with G.I. Joe on its way, live action. We have the last Ronin live action rated R Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles coming down the road. Like, there's just so much going on. And I wonder if, we talk about Marvel fatigue and superhero fatigue in general, but is there fatigue for the same old damn properties?
I mean, I think about this as someone who's only been a father for 5 months. I don't really know shit about like introducing media to a kid, but I do think like there's something to say about like if I were to show a Hanna-Barbera original Scooby-Doo cartoon that has a laugh track and has the same background the whole way through, how would that sit with a kid? On one hand, I think they wouldn't care, and then you'd show them the cheap reboot cartoon, they probably wouldn't care either. They're like, "Hey, I'm watching a cartoon, I'm watching TV, I'm cool with this." And that's this is the most cynical I've ever been in my life, because like that is just like very like, hey, who cares what we put in front of them as long as it's colorful and moving. But there might be something to that. But then as they grow up, they'll see the aged cartoons and they'll wonder what's wrong with this. But then they'll see the new stuff, and there's such a divide with all of this, where I look at the original Tom and Jerry's and I'm like, God, these are classic and exceptional, and then they've like made it computerized, and it's just like it feels insulting. But then I don't know how kids are growing up. They're probably not growing up with the original Tom and Jerry's that are still available on Max. They're probably growing up with the new Tom and Jerry's. So how do they feel about it? And so like I have to like view this in two separate lenses, where I'm just like, I don't know. The next generation is going to grow up with whatever they grow up with. And it will be interesting to see like what like they'll think is terrible coming down the line. Like when the eighth Bluey remake is made, like what will they think about all of those?
Speaking of Bluey, did Bluey's mom smoke weed? Have you heard this?
So there are a lot of very like rough theories about, not even just about that, but just about like who who's Bluey's husband in the future, and it's like and I'm like they're literally outlining the traces of the future kid, and I'm like okay, I'm done. And to answer your question with what little Bluey I've seen so far, I mean, Bandit strikes me as more of the pothead, but I don't know much about the mom yet. The mom is not around that, but she seems like the one that like kind of takes off all the time. But I don't know.
Yeah, because she's smoking weed.
You know what? That could be it.
All right, let's switch gears and talk about Megalopolis. This is
oh man, dude.
We just got a clip for Francis Ford Coppola's longtime project. 40 years he wanted to make this or something.
I mean, yeah,
he's self-financed. He is a nut. He's self-financed. There's a ton of rumors about a troubled production, ballooning costs. He's saying that it's going to cost $100 million at least to distribute this and market this. They've been trying to get distribution. They've yet to get distribution.
I think they've recently got a French company to distribute it. So,
but overseas, not in the US, right?
I think. Well, I don't know about the US. That's true.
Because it's definitely it's going to Cannes. It'll be at Cannes Film Festival. And the first clip was revealed with Adam Driver at the center of it. What did you think of the clip?
I mean, it's so tough because I'm just so excited for this from a fairly fascination standpoint. Like, this guy hasn't really made a great movie since like Apocalypse Now, God, there's got to be one in between there. But like, and you know, that one was woed with a lot of production troubles, and that's because he like ordered like filet mignon every day on set, and they were like $500 million over budget on the first day. Like, there's insanity to that movie, but it is like one of the greatest war movies of all time. It's exceptional, and so like this guy made The Godfather. This guy made like, you know, like
The Outsiders.
Like so The Outsiders is the one I'm thinking of in the 80s, where I'm like, I don't know. Then he goes to The Outsiders. Then he goes to Jack. Then he goes to like Tetro and Love and Time.
Tetro.
Where these movies are just not even seen, and it's just like, what happened to this guy? Where these are, and this has been like a common occurrence throughout. Like, what is going on with Francis Ford Coppola?
Was the bling ring his, or was that Sophia?
So I'm looking up his filmography right now, because I need to look at what he was a director of. And Bling Ring was Sophia. Yeah, he did Youth Without Youth, Tetro, and those were his last two movies. Those were in 2009 and 2007.
Interesting.
Like Jack. I'm just gonna like Bram Stoker's Dracula is quite beloved. I've never seen it. And I'm just like, Peggy Sue Got Married is pretty known. Rumblefish, The Outsiders are pretty, and then it's Apocalypse Now. So the guy, like, you know, granted, his wine is really good. And I'm not even being facetious there. His wine's genuinely great. He owns
which he had to sell half of because he wanted to make this movie. So
and so now going back to this movie where I saw this clip, and of course I'm watching, I immediately start the clip and I'm excited. And like, you know, I don't know, Adam Driver's able to stop time, and he's like, he's hanging off the Chrysler Building. I'm excited. Like, I don't know what it is. Like, I'm just like, this is there's disastrous elements to the fact that no studio would, like, even like with the name Francis Ford Coppola, would like actually like put money up for this. Like, would actually like for releasing, not for like actually like, but just for releasing alone. And granted, like, I don't know, screenings get edited, so like there's been like rumors of like, apparently there's a guy that comes up and talks to the screen. There's been like just like pure insane. Obviously that stuff will get edited out. Like, obviously, like, I, you know, like, and like, I think we're not going to see a finished product at Cannes even, and so there's going to be interesting levels there. I mean, we can think about the choices that Adam Driver has made recently, and how has he made any really good choices recently? And so I think he's someone that, like, it's not to point it all on him, but I saw that interesting when I saw him in that clip. I was like, oh yeah, he hasn't really done something like, he's done fine films, but he's done crazy films like that.
Oh, so 40 or 65 was just fine.
Oh, geez, I forgot 65. I forgot all about 60. I was talking about the ones that are like from artistic directors that just miss, like Michael Mann's Ferrari, Ridley Scott, White Noise. These are all like directors that are like beloved, and these movies are, I for the most part don't hate them, but I also know that like they're just widely misunderstood to the point where maybe they deserve to be misunderstood. And so this sounds like what this movie's going to be. Oh, Jesus. I actually kind of liked it. But like, this dude, like, he's jumping on boats that are insane. And I think this is one of them. But there's so many people in this, and it's just going to be like, just how does like some studio not just like take up the Francis Ford Coppola name and like not grab this is like beyond me. Like, you could just like be Francis Ford Coppola's return to theaters. Like, this would be something that would usually like ignite such excitement. Like, and instead it's just it's a French company that, you're right, I have no idea if they're releasing in the US, but I remember like hearing like a studio got them. And so
I think it's two things, Sean. I think it's first starts back with your reference to the last movies that he did and how they weren't the most beloved. And if Apocalypse Now is the one that we're saying was like his last good movie, hello, that was 45 years ago. Literally 45 years ago, 1979. 45 years ago. So that's a concern. So is there marketability for Francis Ford Coppola outside of film cinephiles? I don't know. And then also when they aired this, or when they showed this movie to potential buyers, there was a lot of like, like it's fine. Is it commercially marketable? We don't know. Oh, the price tag for marketing you think has to be at least $100 million. Oh, and you sell finance for 150, 200 mil, whatever. What the fuck? And I think that's where this is really, we talked about why they keep, these studios are going back to IP and safer bets. And it's because they don't want to take risks on things like this anymore. And, you know, maybe this falls into that conversation about like original properties once again. But I think when you have a track record like Francis Ford Coppola has, a more recent track record like he has, you're not going to get, the excitement around him, like one would expect or hope for.
And it's just upsetting because I want to kneel to this guy's feet and praise him with everything he does, but like you're right, it hasn't been since Apocalypse Now, but like that string of the conversation, the two Godfathers, Apocalypse Now, I'm like, Jesus Christ, this guy just made 70s cinema. And I mean, and then I look at someone like Ridley Scott, who hasn't really made something that I've loved in a while either, and
The Last Duel
I loved, yeah. I forgot
Adam Driver.
I mean, he also
Adam
makes
Driver.
2 movies a year. Like,
True.
He's a
True.
nut job.
True. He's like Guy Ritchie.
He's like Guy Ritchie, where it's just like, he's making another one.
Yeah, like remember, like recently, Ministry of Gentlemanly Warfare was just coming out that weekend, and they announced that his next one comes out in January. And you're like, what is
there's like 2. There's like 2. He's like doing them 2 at a time. Like, it's nuts. Oh my god.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll see where Megalopolis goes.
Megalopolis.
Oh my god. I'm intrigued by it. I think it's some negative attention, but it's attention, and that it gets people talking. So I think there's going to be a certain segment of people that want to see what this is all about. I just hope that it doesn't come out as like Francis Ford Coppola's 3 hour and 45 minute like masterpiece, because that's going to be horrible.
No, I don't think anyone's using the M word on this one. This dude doesn't have as much goodwill as Scorsese has. He just does not. Like my God. Scorsese at least occasionally cranks out a gem. This one's like not even gonna come close.
Sean, it is time for Smash Cutz.
Smash Cutz.
Yes.
Here we go. Ready? Smash or pass? The Rock has come under fire lately for allegedly being late to set, beefing with co-stars like Vin Diesel and Ryan Reynolds, and much, much more, including peeing in a bottle and making his assistants get rid of it. Smash or pass these reports?
Sometimes it's always the people you most expect.
Yep.
Like, what the hell, man?
There's people defending him like crazy, and like, listen, it's a report, who knows, whatever. And Amazon came out and said that. So there's all this shit in the report, and Amazon came out about the Red One or whatever is coming out this year, and was like, reports that he was a great partner, and report to him being 7 to 8 hours late to set are patently false. And you're like, cool. What about the other stuff?
So he is like the most paid movie star. So if you told me without any sort of judgment and everything, mystery person X is the most bankable movie star and the most paid movie star, and he does all of these things, I'd be like, yeah, probably. Like, so I mean, that's not terribly fair in any situation, and that doesn't really hold up in court. But like, it does, like, it sort of makes sense that you have this kind of attitude in this way. I think from a human standpoint, if you have this kind of attitude, like, you become this awful person. And there's these great people in Hollywood we hear about, but I look at this and I'm just like, personally, also, like, this guy has sounded like an asshole for the past couple of years now. Not even just the recent like political stuff, but like the DC Black Adam stuff. Like, and then from then on, I'm just like, this guy just seems like a jerk. And I don't know, man. You're coming from a wrestling environment, and like a lot of people. That's where it gets very interesting. And not to besmirch wrestling, but it's a interesting community.
I think what's interesting in something you just said is, yes, he is the highest paid. Is he the most bankable? No. His
Not
movies
anymore,
don't.
But I mean, a couple of years ago, he was like,
absolutely.
Yeah.
But he has a string of issues, which is why I think he found his way back to WWE for a little bit. And his next movie is a is it a UFC mixed martial arts movie for A24? Something like that.
The A24 movie, yeah.
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about?
I did hear about that. So that seems like that'll be like the next thing that will be interesting to see if he survives the press of that, because he seems to be saying stupid shit in front of the press as well, like not just behind the scenes.
He feels like he's untouchable, or seems to think he's untouchable. And what's interesting is people say, like, well, he has the best work ethic. I'm like, how do we know that? Because he has told us for years that he has an unrivaled work ethic. He has marketed himself that way. And so I don't know. I've fallen out of love with him here, and I am a very big where there's smoke, there's fire person. I don't love who wrote that piece for the Wrap, based off of some other things that he's written and some other interactions with, that he's had with other situations. Yeah. But I don't know. We'll see. Smash or pass the Mufasa trailer?
Oh, I loved it. I'm someone that like on this pod has just like not hated the live action, but I'm like, let's just get rid of all of them. Like we don't need live action updates. I love animated movies. Let's keep these Disney animated movies. And I was very impressed by this. And this is one on the opposite of Megalopolis where I clicked this, rolling my eyes, like bitching and moaning. And then I saw it and I was like, okay, well, it doesn't have as much of the problems of the live action animals not able to emote. They kind of fix that to the point where, like, I don't know. I just mentioned that I'm really excited to see an Apes movie where like all of the characters are going to be. So, am I a hypocrite? Absolutely. But clip it. But I'm excited for this, and I just keep on going back to, and granted, there has been a bunch of like. At this point, instead of stunt casting, I call it stunt directing, where it's like, Sarah Polley doing Bambi and Questlove doing the Aristocats. And I'm thinking, wow, like they're just really just trying to get like good favor with getting directors that are great. And then they'll just get beaten down by the system. But Barry Jenkins doing this, that dude he doesn't operate on a one for you, one for me stream. This guy did Moonlight, If Beale Street Could Talk, and then the Underground Railroad and Amazon series that like no one watched. This guy doesn't care about the bottom line. So I don't know if you could still be manipulated by like the corporate overlords of Disney, which it seems like they have a lot of power and can shape any film the way they want it to be. But Jenkins does seem like someone who, to use it in that word, untouchable to like that kind of thing where it's like, I don't care if 6 people see this movie. I'm making art here. And so for that alone, I'm like still excited for this. And then that trailer did sort of sell me. And I'm
it's a
like,
beautiful trailer.
It's a beautiful trailer. And it'll be interesting to see. I really disliked The Lion King for like the numerous reasons of like that everyone has already said, so it doesn't need to be said again.
Yeah.
And but this looks interesting, and if it's an original story and the guy's messing with it, I'm gonna check it out. And I want him to make $200 million so he could like just keep on like making his crazy projects that like that are just self-funded.
I was going to see it anyway, of course, but now I'm more intrigued. I'm really now I see that they do have something there potentially, and I'm fascinated to see how it plays out. Smash or pass? Paul Walter Hauser has been cast in a mystery role for the Fantastic Four.
Fuck that. Like I love Paul Walter Hauser. This is not to do with Paul Walter Hauser at all. This has nothing to do with him. I genuinely love that guy. I think he's a lovely person in real life, and I've loved watching him on camera. I hate this bullshit of like, casting a mystery like there's been a few of these already. Like not just Paul Walter Hauser, there was someone else that was like casted a mystery role.
Giancarlo Esposito this week.
Yeah, and I'm like, fuck off. Like, say the name of the character or go fuck yourself. I'm done with this shit. I get so mad at this. Like, especially with Fantastic Four, where I had to listen to rumor after goddamn rumor of like these people like, is it Pedro Pascal? No, it's not. Yes, it is. No, it's not. Yes, it is. And then like by the time they did the official announcement, I was like, I don't give a shit anymore. so this oh, he's in a mystery role, and then like it's like, oh, he's gonna and then like the comments roll in and it's like, oh, he's probably gonna be Spigglepuss because he's like a like natural enemy. I'm like, I don't know.
You know what he probably is actually is I'm with it. I'm in now. I'm involved. There's a character who is a robot in the movie or in the original Fantastic Four, and they are in that robot is in that like image they released when they announced the casting. Its name is Herbie, which stands for highly engineered something or other. Highly engineered robot built for interdimensional exploration. I'm going to say, I don't know, something.
Works, yeah.
Let's go with that. He's probably going to be the voice of that. I'm calling it right now.
He is a really talented voice actor too. He was recently in it's a fairly forgettable Netflix series, Orion in the Dark. And he was kind of great as the
never even heard of it.
Yeah, exactly. like it was an animated show or not? No, it was an animated movie on Netflix, and it was written by Charlie Kaufman, which is even more, yeah. It's like whoa, like, and it didn't really work, but he was great in it, and he was really funny, and so I think he's got like that voice talent capability where he can go larger than life with it. So okay, I'm into him being a voice guy. I just let's say he's Herbie. What's the harm in not saying he's the voice of the robot in Fantastic Four? Just say it. Like I don't know, man.
Oh my god. Final smash or pass. The New England Patriots performance at the NFL draft.
Oh, okay. Well, so it's interesting because Drake May is very green, but I think it's just going to be like Jacoby's going to start in this horrible season of it's just going to be very bad. And Jacoby's just going to be, he can handle that kind of adversity, the veteran quarterback that they have. Then like Drake May will learn under him, and Drake May will eventually take over. And I like him. I like him a lot. He's got a fun energy to him.
Where's he from?
Oh, damn. I had it in my head.
I'm looking it up.
I'm looking up. As I look at it, I look at the Earth Cam on 95. Did you see what happened near me?
I heard something, but I didn't know if it was that serious.
I missed school on Friday. They canceled school on Friday for it. A truck blew up underneath the thing.
Cool. That happened in Philly a couple months ago.
And they've already opened up 95, so they've already done the same thing where it's like, oh yeah, no, quick week. Like takes us 70 years to make a bridge, but
he's from North Carolina.
Oh yes. He did not. When they look at education, it's high school only. So he didn't complete. Which hey, you can go back and do that. But
it says college, North Carolina, UNC, but he was only there for 2 years.
Yeah. So he's very, very, very young, which worries me. But like, please don't start him. Like, please have Jacoby. Jacoby knows how to get his ass kicked better. He'll have that veteran quality, and I love Jacoby, so I'd love to see Jacoby start for a little bit, and then have Drake learn. But
but that if like 3 games in, things are so bad that the fans are going to be wanting like to see May and just throw him in there, and hopefully there is some restraint with the staff of the Patriots to not do that. But
this is the Pats fans that were chanting for Billy Zappi like after Mac Jones and a bunch of receptions, and then Billy Zappi did as well. Like now, Bailey Zappi. Look out!
All right. What do we have next week? We have Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, Kingdom of the Planet of the, and we will have Jeremy Kibler, who is a friend of mine, writes for the site. He's from Philadelphia. Jay Kibler Film on Instagram. He'll be joining to talk through some fun topics next week. Sean, anything good going on that you're looking forward to this week in terms of TV or film?
If you need me, I'll be stressing about planning the first Mother's Day next weekend. I'm so scared. Like, I mean,
hey, just between you and I, because this is a confidential space.
Yes.
What do you have planned?
Well, right now, thankfully, Mother's Day is so interesting because
this is not a confidential space, so don't tell any surprises, Sean.
There's no surprises. I mean, it's going to be a brunch at my folks' house, and then probably something at her folks' house, because grandmas are so involved in Mother's Day that we can't really just have the Mother's Day thing is now it's become more than it used to be, where it was still big, but now it's like I have 3 different people to cater to and make sure they're all good, and she's gonna go but I have gifts, but she doesn't like romantic gifts. She likes practical gifts, which is great, but then when I say I'm getting her a crock pot, it's it's tricky. But
getting a crock pot, I need a new crock pot, so if you find a good one,
we need a new crock pot. She said get me a crock pot, and I'm like, are you sure you don't want me to get you a heart necklace? She's like, don't give me a fucking heart necklace, give me a goddamn crock pot.
She's like, I want a crock pot, and our coffee pot will be back by then.
Oh god, I hope so.
But seriously, let me know about that crock pot. I have a small one. I need a larger one.
I'll keep you posted on it. Yeah.
Perfect. Well, guys, if you enjoy the banter in this episode and like the ongoing craziness of this show, like the episode wherever you're listening or watching, and be sure to subscribe and share with your friends. Listen, leave some comments. We're not saying we need those 5-star ratings. We really want those 5-star ratings, but we also want to hear some feedback from you guys. Give us your comments. Make us laugh. That's always good. Maybe we'll read some of them here. But go and leave some reviews wherever you're listening, whether that's Spotify, Overcast, Apple iTunes, Google Podcasts went away, right? Good Pods is a really good place to listen to podcasts.
God bless you for throwing Overcast in there for placating me.
Yes, for you, just for you. You're the only one I know that listens on there, but there it is. Follow Smash Cutz Podcast on Instagram and Smash Cutz Pod on X or Twitter or whatever it will become once Elon Musk gets tired of it. And we will see you next week.